Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this August 30th, 2016 day on our calendar. I'm your host, Greg Anthony. You're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. You can catch my show every evening from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Monday through Friday. They also play the show at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and if you can't go there, you know where to go. Go to my website at arcticbeacon.com. And you can get shows going back almost a decade or even longer regarding what I call the Vatican-led New World Order. Okay, we're on part 11 of what I call the greatest stage play ever produced by the Jesuit order, the writers of this, in the history of mankind. And this year it's titled The Presidential Elections 2016. And my, how these episodes are mounting, aren't they? And you know, before I get back to finishing up what I did yesterday, and it's a really important show, and I called upon Walter Veith to present it for us, and I've given you my reflections and my thoughts about it, and I wanted to let Walter explain what we were talking about because he does it so eloquently. And what I was saying was I was just amazed at the writers of this script we watch every 4 years. And now, although this movie, frankly, folks, gets a bit tiring for me. I mean, my whole life I've been watching the same movie. And, you know, over the years I've tried to figure it out. So think of me today as a movie reviewer and nothing more. Now, what I'm reviewing is this theater of life that these writers we call the Jesuits have created, and the Vatican. Now, many people don't even know who they are, and that's what makes this movie so interesting. We all are living it, playing a part in it while we watch it. Yes, we playing a part. I play a part as a movie reviewer. Many of you, and I've also played the part as an extra, you know, being a part of their cast, one of the useless eaters they want to kill in the end. And we all know we don't even get paid for that. In fact, we have to pay them, if you think about it. Yes, isn't that crazy? We're in their movie, and we have to pay them. I mean, I said long ago that all the little discrepancies I've found, for example, the history they gave me in university I paid for, I want my refund, because it wasn't a real true history. It was just theater. And again, as I sit here today as a movie reviewer, I'll leave this show in an hour, and then I'll walk out and I'll become one of their extras. I want $100 a day from them every day for playing a part in their movie. You know, if they're going to take my life in the end, and the lives of many other extras, at least, you know, we shouldn't have to pay for it, should we? Well, we pay dearly. We pay, in America, for example, we pay a unconstitutional income tax, which none of these people in this play want to ever write about. That's my gripe. My gripe is that we can never get anything more than the story they want to tell us. They control it. And I've shown throughout the centuries, they've been doing this. It gets a little tedious, doesn't it? They've been doing this since the beginning of time. And that's why I brought on Walter Veith, to show you, because I was quite interested as a movie reviewer of this theater of life. I had to think about this outside of the character actors they use and all this, which is, you know, interesting stuff, and I love to watch that as well. Let me take a break here. I got to take care of something. Okay, I took care of that. You know, as you do radio, you don't have an audience. You know, you have to like make believe there's millions of people listening and all that. But I've always had an audience of two. As I sit here and do this show for over the years, my dog Max and Moose constantly are looking at me, listening to me, and I wondered, you know, if they're really picking up on what I say. I think they are. I think they're the two smartest dogs in the world. But anyway, that's another story. So getting back to this, the reason I brought on Walter Veith, and I've mentioned this many times, is that as a movie reviewer, I was just amazed at these writers, how they could put this all together. And my thought was, where does the plot begin? How do they get away with their movie and never talk about things that many people throughout the course of the history wanted to get this in. So we had to go all the way back to Genesis in the Bible to really understand them. And I found out that the reason they've been so successful is that from the beginning of their writing this play, trying to craft everything to meet their goals, to realize their ambitions, to realize their one world order, their one world religion, they had to kind of take away people's belief in God. They had to diminish the presence of God. They had to diminish the presence of the Bible. They had to diminish everything, reverse it. And once they could do that, then all of their little games they play with the laws you see passed today are pretty easy, because people don't even know who God is. They don't even think the Bible is the true Word of God. So they've been successful in that, and that's why people who want to bring that into the movie have had a hard time. Now, back in the beginning, when there were Christians not following Rome, they were pretty adamant about their opinions, and so the only way the Vatican could figure out to get rid of them is to create genocides and kill them. And we've talked about the crimes against humanity that this organization has been involved in. Now, as the years pass on, they haven't changed, and we've cited many different genocides, even going back to Rwanda in the 90s. We've gone back to Croatia. So we see that they're still using in their movie death and destruction, killing, wars. And they're doing the same thing today with ISIS, as we've pointed out, haven't we? We've pointed it out. They're using the same techniques to sell their movie, and that is constant chaos and war. That's one element. Now, Walter is talking very eloquently about how they have to even change everything in the Bible. That's kind of this idea here. You can't just have political control. You must have spiritual control. And that's exactly what they're doing today. So we're going to get back and finish up. I got about 20 minutes left on Walter's presentation, showing you how they've had to change even God's plan in Genesis. And the reason they're successful is that the majority of people don't even believe it, that God had a plan. And so they take the plan of the Jesuit writers, who have created all of their organizations to control us, and they're succeeding in moving towards this one world government, one world religion, which is basically geared towards controlling humanity. Now, if you think this is strange, just look at Hollywood, because I've reviewed typical Hollywood movies, which aren't half as good as these. And the same thing exists in the Hollywood hierarchy. The big movie producers, the big people that are under control, and by the way, the Jesuits are controlling that as well. You've got to present certain things that only fit into their script. So if you try to get in, for example, a Christian movie, a movie that depicts things from the Christian perspective, it's pretty damn hard. And if you support anything that they don't agree with, this papal social justice, you're ostracized even in Hollywood. So they control that as well. It's a small microcosm of the big movie. Now, I also mentioned, and I wanted to do this before we get back to Walter, that this is so interesting when you start looking back at everything they've done with the characters they've presented today. And some of the main characters, I said, are Trump and the old Clintons. When you start looking back at the Clinton death count, start looking at some of the stories they've been involved with, it is just amazing. And we've even talked about it on this show, how Bill Clinton really was the one who gave the orders to bring down Tony Alamo, the Christian ministry in Arkansas. And we've even had FBI guys on our show telling us this, that they were hired to bring him down. So this is not something that, the people they put in charge are pretty ruthless. And it's amazing that even today, they bring on the wife of this guy, and she's running for president, and she's about as crooked as they come. How people would even support a woman with this background. When you start looking at their death count over the years, we're basically, what they're doing is they're probably putting in a mass murderer into the White House, and people don't care. And it goes with the way of their movie, is they want rulers that are evil, because then what happens? Most of the people find that, oh, why don't I be evil too? So it's the rulers of evil ruling evil people, and a majority of people really don't care if their leaders get away with murder, if they break the law, if they lie. In fact, that's the way they get away with this movie. But if you try to bring in truth, let's say people say, I want a person in office that is a good person. That person would never survive and wouldn't even get into their movie. So we've got a whole bunch of things in the future to talk about while we go through the last 2 months of this great movie they're presenting to us. But let's get back to Walter Veith. And the reason I want to do this is because he really shows you how they work the Hegelian dialectic in their movie, how they create the chaos, how they create the strife, and you're seeing it right today. They're creating racial tensions all over the country. They're creating all of these, if you start reading the stories going on, the drums of war are beating all over the world. And these next 2 years, you're going to hear Walter talk about this, are very, very important in this grand scheme that they've been writing about since the beginning. And you're going to see how it's playing out today. So we're living in really some interesting times. So we left off where Walter was talking about Brexit and how really it's most people, and I said this like a month ago when Brexit was happening. I said, don't think that Brexit is something us pulling away from the New World Order. I think it's Britain moving under the control of the papacy. And if you don't believe it, Britain is still under the control of the papacy, just as we are. So let's get back to Walter. He's talking about Theresa May coming into office. Now, under Brexit, they had to get rid of their prime minister. Cameron resigned because of Brexit. And he's talking about, you're going to listen how she's, talking about all the problems in Britain. And they're similar here. Now, you have to remember that these writers, the producers, the Vatican, and all of their underlings and all these government officials working for them in this movie have created this so that they could bring humanity towards a direction and then open up the door for what they want. And that is, the more strife, the more pain, the more terror, the more wars, the more that people cry out for help. And so that's where these people come in. They're going to help you. And the only way they're going to help you, they're going to say, is if we create this new papal social justice. If we create a one-world government, a one-world order, there's no other way. And all the extras are buying it. So let's get back to Walter Veith and a little presentation he calls 1, 2, 3.
In Britain today, if you are born poor, you will die on average 9 years earlier than others. If you're black, you're treated more harshly by the criminal justice system than if you're white. If you're white, working class boy, you're less likely than anybody else to go to university. If you're at a state school, you're less likely to reach the top profession than if you're educated privately. If you're a woman, you still earn less than a man. If you suffer from mental health problems, there's too often not enough help to have. If you're young, you'll find it harder than ever before to own your own home. These are all burning injustices, and I'm determined to fight against them. There are, of course, many things that Theresa May has said and done which Christians can disagree, but no Christian can disagree with this agenda. We know that Theresa May will not succeed on her own. We should pray that she is given the grace and strength of the Holy Spirit and implore the saints to come to her aid so that she might facilitate amendments of life in these islands. Question: do they want churchcraft and statecraft to come together to solve the problems of humanity, to straighten out the injustices that have been created in the first place in order to lead men into this dialectic thinking pattern? But what does the media say about the old Tory party? The media says, this is the Guardian, I mean, this is one of the biggest newspapers there. They say money is the only God that Tories want us to worship on a Sunday. There's no spirituality. Everything is just money, and the rich must get richer, and the poor can go and get poorer, and it doesn't matter, and these social injustices must continue. No, we need a rethink. Where must we go? Well, this is where we want to go. So why is Sunday special? The Christian answer is more complicated than expected. Every Christian moved their day of rest. The early Christians moved their day of rest from the seventh day of the week to the first day, from Saturday to Sunday, despite the fourth commandment mandating Saturday. Isn't this interesting? I.e., the seventh day Sabbath observance. This move was partly a way of honoring the resurrection which happened on the first day of the week, partly about distinguishing Christianity from Judaism, and partly a way of colonizing the posh Roman sun-worshipping day. So they've got the history straight. But it also conveniently distanced Christianity and its new imperial friends from all that dangerously redistributive stuff about the Jubilee, to which the Sabbath is fundamentally connected, for the seventh day of the week corresponds to the seventh day of creation when God rested. From this derives rest on the seventh day, one, rest for the land on the seventh year. We just discussed this. This is interesting. Which on the Jewish calendar is this year, and 3, the forgiveness of all debt, the Jubilee on the seventh year. When is the greatest Jubilee year in the history of the modern world going to take place? Next year, 2017. What did the Pope call this year? A special year of mercy, when the door of mercy will be open for everyone to accept this mercy so that we can go into the Jubilee. Is the world being prepared for something very particular? We just asked the questions in the lessons that we studied. Is this our duty to set these things right in a materialistic sense? Where are we going? This is how the world thinks. The stories you need to read in one handy email, read more. This last is the big one, the so-called Year of the Lord's Favor. It's what the Jubilee debt campaign referred back to when it called for the eradication of developing world debt. It's also what Jesus refers to in his very first sermon. I come to bring good news to the poor, freedom to the captive. Now you are literalizing spiritual words of Christ. This is a Jesuit application of a spiritual directive which God has given. I come to bring good news to the poor, freedom to the captive, and proclaim the year of the Lord's favor. This is not some niche bit of scripture. It's the key that unlocks the whole meaning of the Jesus movement. And it is fundamentally and unavoidably antithetical to modern capitalism. It has to go the way we've been doing business has to go. The Jubilee is not debt restructuring. It's out and out full-on debt forgiveness. No wonder the business minister isn't so keen. We need a new form of government. We need new thinking. Maybe the women can do it. Washington, D.C. Do we have the same thinking in Washington? Did you know that Washington, D.C., the City of London, and the Vatican are not just capitals or in capitals, they are sovereign nations. Totally independent sovereign nations. Now, I have a whole lecture on that, the beamable sustainable princes. All three of them, of course, have a territory. All three of them have a particular duty. All three of them have similar structures. The City of London has the obelisk. The Washington Monument is the obelisk, and the Vatican has its obelisk. All three of them are totally independent cities. All three of them have a particular geographical area, a city-state, independent city-state with its own laws, its own constitutions, its own police force. In the case of the Vatican, it's the Swiss Guard, which, by the way, is also a representative of the banking system, and its own flag. When it comes to the City of London, the heart of the City of London, then it has its own coat of arms, and it has its own geographical area with its own elections and its own bylaws, an independent city-state, and its own flag. And the dragons and we serve and all of these things are rather fascinating when you look at that history, but that's not part of this lecture. So this is called the Corporation of London. Like Vatican City, London's financial district is also a privately owned corporation or city-state located right smack in the heart of Greater London. It became a sovereign state in 1694 when King William III of Orange privatized and turned the Bank of England over to the bankers. And maybe it needs a king. Maybe it needs a King William. I wonder. Would be interesting if it could get a King William. Let's have a look what Wikipedia says about London Corporation. City of London Corporation. The City of London Corporation, officially and legally the mayor and commonalty and citizens of the City of London, is the municipal governing body of the City of London, the historic centre of London, and the location of much of the UK's financial sector. The Rothschild banks are there, and Rothschild stands for Red Shield, Rothschild, Red Shield. And if you look at the Jewish Encyclopedia, it says Vatican Bankers. In 2006, the name was changed from Corporation of London to avoid confusion with the wider London local government. It's a totally separate government, the Greater London Authority. The corporation is probably the world's oldest continuous elected local government authority. Both businesses and residents of the city, or square mile as it's called, are entitled to vote in the elections, and in addition to its functions as the local authority analogous to those undertaken by the boroughs that administer the rest of London, it takes responsibility for supporting the financial services, industry, and representing its interests. And it has a Lord Mayor, a court, and a council, and all of the necessary components to make it an independent state. Now it's interesting that the former Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, was pro-Brexit. And David Cameron was anti-Brexit. And we're wondering, are they cleaving to each other? Are they not cleaving to each other? It has nothing to do with this. Because the cleaving has to do with churchcraft and statecraft.
Okay, we're going to take a break right now. Come back in 3 minutes. We'll finish up with Walter Veith on this very important subject. And don't forget, you are a part of this great movie. What part do you really want to play? Okay, we'll be back in 3 minutes on the Investigative Journal.
The book of Revelation says, the spirit of prophecy is the testimony of Jesus Christ. This is at the very heart of FirstAmendmentRadio.com. In that spirit, we have created the Prophecy Reality News app for all of your mobile devices, streaming First Amendment Radio 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Available for your Apple, Android device, and smartphone, absolutely free. Get the Prophecy Reality News app installed today, so you can listen to First Amendment Radio wherever you are. The Prophecy Reality News app. Get it now.
The program you are listening to is 100% sponsored by you, the listener, on this First Amendment Rights Media channel. You will notice that there are few commercials on this radio network. There's a good reason for that. Corporate advertising dollars come with strings that limit program content. So without your help, these programs cannot continue on internet or our several affiliates. If you benefit by the educational law programs, we ask you to give. If you are admonished or nurtured by the Bible and ministry programs, we ask you to give. If some voice a cause that you are passionate about, we ask you to give. If you believe in any of these, we ask you to support them as you would a missionary on a continual basis, as if giving a tithe for missionary radio. These programs are not commercially viable and must be supported by those faithful to the cause of truth. Look for the button to sponsor your favorite programs at our listen and schedule pages on the internet. Then, when you subscribe, we will send you the last quarterly MP3 CD of that program immediately, and continue to do so with each new quarter. We will also give you unlimited archive access to all of our programs. We're asking you to give much less than a tithe, so that you may also send support directly to a particular program host, cause, and anywhere else the Spirit may lead you. Do all to the glory of our God and Creator, for His holy nation, the only kingdom that will last forever. Thank you for listening. Since the beginning of time, kings have sought it, nations have fought for it. It has been traded, it has been borrowed, it has been purchased, it has been stolen. There's a reason for it. To secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity, invest with the security of gold and silver. Call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188 or visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net. Listen to Financial Survival with your host Melody Cedarstrom right here on FirstAmendmentRadio.com at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit discountgoldandsilvertrading.net or call Discount Gold and Silver Trading at 1-800-375-4188. Toll free 1-800-375-4188.
Okay, welcome back to the Investigative Journal on this August 30th, 2016 day on our calendar. Again, I'm your host, Greg Anthony, and you're listening to FirstAmendmentRadio.com. I've got this little presentation I'm playing has got about 17 minutes left, so I got to fill in about 7 minutes here. And let me tell you, during the break, I was just kind of rolling my eyes and going, boy, I'll tell you what, there are so many aspects to what we're talking about today. And sitting here thinking about it, going back to my life when I was just a kid, growing up as a Catholic, going to St. John Brebeuf Grammar School, I'm sitting here going, my God, I really believed what they were really worshiping God, and all those ceremonies I went to at Mass and all that was really worshiping God and Christ. And when I found out these people, these priests up there were actually worshiping sun gods and all of these occult things, it really blew my mind, to be honest with you. And I wanted to tell people, especially Catholics all over the world, you got to look deeply into the history of the hierarchy of your religion. It is complete occult nonsense when you start really thinking about what they do, and it needs to be exposed. But anyway, that's what I'm talking about. You can't get this into their movie. You know, I've been trying for years, and they keep saying, oh, he's just a crazy writer, we don't want any part of him, and we're going to continue on telling our story to mold this thing the way we want, so that in the end we can kill off most of the people in the world and create this kind of universe in this world that is just the way we want. We can't have anybody get their little 2 cents in. And you know how many people over the years that I've tried to figure out all the great people, the heroes that have been cast as villains in this movie, and they like to do that. They're casting the heroes as villains. They're casting the rulers that they put up as their main actors as heroes. And when you start realizing it's completely opposite, you start looking at all of the things they're doing. And you know, one thing that I'm leaving out, but in this movie they present, is they love to, just like when you go to Hollywood, isn't it obsessed with sex and all of this completely ridiculous stuff you see, that they want to keep you into this kind of perverted world. And no better than looking at the leaders that we have. I mean, when you look at Bill Clinton's escapades throughout his history, and I'm not talking about just an extramarital affair here, but when you see about this man is supposedly married to a woman that's going to put up with this. No, there's much information on Hillary Clinton being a lesbian. Yuma Abedin, basically her confidant for years, and you'll see her in the news now, has been her partner, so that they say. And look at the story today that broke with Anthony Weiner, Abedin's husband, who was running for office. He was a congressman, and he's sexting all these women, and he calls himself Carlos Danger. I mean, this is a perverted world they live in. When you get to Obama and Michelle Obama, remember Joan Rivers when she mentioned that everybody knew that Michelle was a tranny, a transgender, and that Obama was homosexual? And then about 30 days later, she was dead. Check that story out. So we have all these perverts in office, and they're not depicted like that in the movie. But how come we can't even talk about that stuff? I mean, if we want to get to the truth about all their Hollywood scum, why don't we really get to the bottom of it? Because that's a part of the movie they want you to get involved in. They want you to look at all these sexual transgressions of Clinton and all of this stuff. They want you to get preoccupied with that. And then, if the leaders do it, oh, it's okay for you too. And they've created this kind of perverted sexual world and making it seem normal. They're going to try to tell you it's normal that a transgender can choose any bathroom he wants and be with your kids in the bathroom. I mean, that's ridiculous. But that's normal now, isn't it? And gay marriage, that's normal. That's not normal. It isn't normal. Marriage is between a man and a woman. I don't even know why the government has to get involved with it to begin with. It's a pact between you and God. But you see, God does not have any importance in this movie. And that's what many people that I've met tried to get in. The importance of God. The importance of Christianity. But as we're seeing right now, their part of the movie is destroying Christianity with this radical Islam. And there's so much more we could talk about regarding radical Islam, and we're going to get to that as this whole presidential election movie plays out in the next couple of months. And hopefully we can start getting our side, some of the writers that are depicted as crazy writers or villains, we can get our side of the story in. Wouldn't it be nice? Change the direction of the movie for a change. I'm getting a little bored with their version of it, aren't you? I mean, this whole idea of friction, creating this, and they're doing it with Trump and Clinton, aren't they? Trump being the anti-globalist, Clinton the globalist. I'm getting pretty tired of it. Because who's going to win in the end? Globalism. Yes. There's no chance that, you think they're just going to give up after all these years? But there is a happy ending to all this. And we'll get to that later on as it gets closer to that deadline of November 8th, when basically the whole damn thing's rigged to begin with. So let's have fun with it, right? Let's get back to Walter Veith and this little presentation he calls 1, 2, 3.
And why is it necessary that Britain should actually be separate? And why would Boris Johnson be in the know? Well, as a leading figure in an independent state, as the former mayor, and as a Bilderberger, he should know what the agenda is, the Bilderbergers having been created by the Jesuits. by Joseph Herody Rettinger. And why was he pro-Brexit? Does the New World Order need a separate state as a figurehead state, as Prince Charles was supposed to be? And then he was made the Foreign Secretary by the new Prime Minister. And as Foreign Secretary, he wields a tremendous amount of power because he will be dealing on a one-to-one basis with the great powers of the world, including the Russians and the Chinese and all of these. And who is the new Lord Mayor who's taken his place? Well, this is the official government webpage. Mayor of London, the role of the Executive London Strategic Authority is to promote economic development and wealth creation, social development, and the improvement of the environment. The mayor also has various other duties in relations to culture and tourism, and now it is Sadiq Khan, who happens to be a Muslim. And it's interesting, if you get to the 32nd degree in Freemasonry, well, then you become a Shriner Freemason, if that is your portfolio, and then you swear allegiance, not on the Bible, but on the Quran. And you don a fez, which says Allah. Rumors have emerged Britain's Queen Elizabeth is set to retire, so says the media, and intends to pass the crown over to Prince William and Kate Middleton. Britain's Queen Elizabeth, who just celebrated, etc., the reigning monarch, she wants to hand over directly to her grandson, Prince William. It's interesting that the Prince of Orange, William III, actually created this independent state, which is really subject to the crown. And the crown, legally, is the Vatican, and not Britain. The Queen owns no crown. She is subject to the crown. The news came from reports the Queen had made it known she was planning to step down and skip over her son, Prince Charles, turning over the crown to the second in line to the throne, his son, Prince William. In the higher circles, it has always been stated that the British royalty should become a figurehead royalty for the entire world. And maybe it has to be separate from the other nations in order to fulfill that role. In fact, they would make a very nice couple and a very nice example to the world to look up to this youthful new endeavor of church and state working together. Now, the third little state is the District of Columbia in the United States. It also has its own territory within Washington, the District of Columbia. It has its own police force. It has its own flag, and there are 3 stars on the flag. All together now. 1, 2, 3. You see, the District of Columbia is the political powerhouse of this new order. The Vatican is the religious powerhouse, and it wields the sword of the Spirit, to which the sword of the state is subject. And here lies the military and political clout of the system. London is the powerhouse of the economic system. So all the economics of the world are controlled by an independent corporation in London that is subject to the Jesuits. And this one is also subject to the Jesuits. In fact, you will see that it has been donated from Jesuit land, which is Maryland, and the whole seat of government is totally legally separate from the United States. And the territory is what is called the DC Mall. And here's an aerial photograph where you have the great obelisk and the buildings associated with it, like the Capitol over there. And this is from Wikipedia, and it's called the Mall. So when great gatherings take place at the mall, then it's not just a United States gathering. It is the gathering of the elites threads that pull the strings of government. Now, what great meeting is taking place on this very day on which I am talking? And this gets to be fascinating to me. First, let's have a look at the Pittsburgh Gazette. We've looked at what the Londoners had to say about Sunday. Let's see what the Pittsburgh Gazette had to say about Sunday. There's no argument or question that our country was founded on Christian values that have eroded over the years. Gazette article is illustrative. Church fading away after more than a century of worship. The subhead says the First Presbyterian Church in struggling Clayton will close on the 27th of December, etc. Another article about the merit of religion appeared in December 20 forum saying religion is good for families and kids. Our Congress should revisit and our candidates for president should consider advocating the restoration of Sunday as a day of rest, a paid day of rest, a required day of rest. Now we have the distraction of unnecessary shopping. And in the not too distant past, non-essential business establishments were required to be closed on Sunday. Americans deserve a day of rest, a day to be with families, attend church and interact with people on an interpersonal level. Imagine shutting down the internet or cell phones for the day, how peaceful that would be. We have made a truly negative rat race with limited time available for potential for good interactions with one another. We need to restore one takeaway from our past. Sunday as a day of rest, a day of worship, of prayer, that was invaluable to our family values and individual well-being. The odds are regretfully that our Sunday tradition of the past are gone forever, just as the odds that presidential candidates would even think of Sunday as an essential need. Merry Christmas. Well, what's going to take place at the mall? Today. Together, 2016 aims to unify 1 million Christians in prayer on the National Mall. Now, this is very important because it's not just anywhere. This is the central government of the papal power establishing a meeting on its territory. This is a signal to the world as to where we are going. It's not just in some stadium. The only other ones who had the privilege of appearing in those situations are the Pope himself and a rally previously by Billy Graham, who also was a 33-degree Freemason. And the Pope is blessing this, and he calls it Together. And what are they saying? Pope Francis held up a black T-shirt adorned with an American flag.
I had to add this. And one of the main actresses, Hillary Clinton, her campaign theme is Stronger Together.
Last week on YouTube and urged young people to journey to Washington this month. Wear this T-shirt in unison and respond to the great restlessness. He's calling 1 million Christians to journey to the National Mall on July the 16th for a day of unifying prayer. We want to come together. We need to solve the problems of this world. We need to get rid of inequality. We need to get rid of racial hatred. We need to get rid of everything that divides us. And if there's one thing that can unite us and can heal the family, then it's Sunday. And he's made that quite clear in his encyclicals, even the encyclical that was lauded by Obama, that called for Sunday as a day of rest. And it was on the environment. The goal of Together is to get 1 million Christians to journey to the National Mall on July 16. This is a tremendous signal to the world for a day of unifying prayer. Nick Hall, the founder of the movement, hopes to unite people of all kinds. Jesus welcomes you whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, or an independent. He welcomes whether you're young or old, whether you're an equal opportunity employer. Dozens of major Christian musicians and speakers from many denominations will perform on stage near the Washington Monument. Among them, Francis Chan, Leigh Craig, Crowder, Hillsong, Passion, etc., etc. If we're singing the same songs together, then we can't yell at each other. They're going to perform. What does the Bible say? How will they come together? Will it not be with music? All kinds of music? Will they not bow down? Together is a modern-day evangelical revival complete with TED talks, hip-hop, and no politics. This week, thousands of evangelical Christians will gather near the Washington Monument for what organizers will hope will be a historic religious revival, the likes of which America hasn't seen in decades. As a modern-day one together has heavy social media branding, major music from hip-hop to folktronica to hard rock, and popular evangelists who know to keep the message TED talk. That means technology, entertainment, and design. It seems to me that what is predicted in the Bible is happening before our very eyes. And the world is being prepared for the ultimate entry, which I believe will begin in 2017, when the hatchet is buried between Protestants and Roman Catholics at their great Jubilee. And the others will follow, like the Swiss evangelical churches. They will come on board early in 2018. Paul said his goal is just to hold a huge Love Jesus rally, something that has been mostly absent from the American public life since the days of Billy Graham. Everything now is protests. I'm against this. I hate that. We really believe there's a longing to come together. We don't have to agree on everything, but we can come together around the hope of Jesus. He said there are moments when God's people come together and God does something that can heal, change, define generations. The sad part is that a longing of the soul is to be filled by all of these things. But sadly, there's a fulfillment of prophecy, peace, peace, and what? Sudden destruction. Together is marketed as a huge day of Christian unity, a time when we will lay down what divides us. Politics, race, social issues, theological differences, to come together and lift up Jesus who unites us. Can you be united in error? Or can you only be united in truth? Although the lineup is entirely evangelical, except for a greeting from Pope Francis via Hall, some prominent evangelical leaders said the racial and gender diversity of the people who will be on the stage is groundbreaking. Around half will be non-white and perhaps a third will be female. The world longs to come together. Revelation 17 verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest, which is exactly the same as the 10 toes, the feet of iron and clay, are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. How will they do that? By asking the governments of the world, the new, friendlier, kinder, gentler leaders of the world, to implement legislation that will honor the first beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. The worst for me is that these people that will come together, and everybody who is in solidarity with them, have good intentions. There are some deceivers amongst them, yes, who are running the program and pushing their agenda. But the people themselves are misled. And they don't see that when they rush into this movement, and when they think that the problems will be solved, that they are actually creating the greatest problem of all, setting aside the authority of God for the authority of man. And they will have negated, when they finally get to that point, every single one of the principles instituted in Eden, and have made of non-effect the government of God. And it's up to us to warn the world and to tell them that the time has come for this church to play its role in the world and to teach people that the only way and the only kingdom that we can long for and hope for is the kingdom of Jesus Christ, where he is the ruler of the world and where social justice is by his agenda and not by the world's agenda. Amen.
Okay, I got a minute or so here. I think that was a great message in the end that Walter gave you, and we've said it many times on this show as well. Now, point one, what he was referring to, he was giving this lecture on that day we talked about together in the Washington Mall. Remember that? We discussed it on our show many times as a sign and symbol of what is to come. Well, there's another one coming, and this will be the consecration of Lucifer, I believe, in Jerusalem, coming up between September 4th and September 23rd, when the Pope brings together in the final days on September 23rd all of the leaders of Islam, the leaders of the Jewish faith, all together worshiping one God. And that isn't the God that we worship here. It's Lucifer. And don't be one of those that can't figure it out. As Walter said, you have to make a choice. So think hard before. Do you want God's authority or man's? Back tomorrow on the Investigative Journal. Thanks for listening.
Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.
I know you all want answers, and believe me, so do I, and I'll do my best to get them.
Despite Nicolas Cage's promise to do his best to get left behind rapture answers for us, don't hold your breath. Not everyone believes Left Behind is true prophecy. Some may even regard as conspiratorial the mainstream re-release of the Left Behind movie, with actor Nicolas Cage portraying the main character, as an attempt to further reinforce in the minds of all this perception of false prophecy, in order to condition the masses for the play about to begin. If you want true Bible prophecy answers, get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. The author exposes the Latin rapture origin, the 7-year tribulation deception, true Bible revelation of Daniel's 70 weeks, the abomination of desolation, the restrainer, America in the Revelation, the image of the beast and the mark of the beast, and the truth about God's chosen people, and so much more about Bible prophecy. This book will shatter the Left Behind paradigm of future events. Get the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. Visit crosstheborder.org, CROSS, crosstheborder.org, to get your print, EPUB, or PDF version of the book, The Rapture Will Be Canceled. That's crosstheborder.org.